My spiritual journey is just a testimony to the strength and power that God breathes into communities when we submit to his will and desire for discipleship. So just a little bit of background about me. I grew up in a Christian home. I probably would have always considered myself a Christian, but I didn't really start to take my faith seriously and want to grow in deeper ways until I graduated college. And subsequently thereafter, I met my husband, Dan, and that's when I came under the leadership of Mercy Hill. And that's really, truly where everything began to change, and I really began to understand what the gospel was and why it mattered, and then how that could actually change my life. So ever since making that faith my own, I knew that I was being called into a deeper relationship with the Lord, but I was like constantly under the spiritual attack of just doubting God and then thinking, well, how could I be saved if I'm doubting God? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so then I would think, I'm doing all these things wrong. Like, I was feeling in so much bondage. So I knew this was like years of dealing with this too. It was really horrible. So I knew that there was a spirit-led coming up, and I was like, I have to get prayer. Like, absolutely have to get prayer before I leave. So almost immediately, prayer was available to anybody who wanted to. So I raised my hand, and a group of people came around me and started to pray over me. And after about a minute of that, one individual was like, well, if I think that the Lord has a vision for you, test it within your own heart. And if this applies to you, that's awesome. So he started by saying, I see you, Taylor, and you're sitting and you have a book in front of you or a ledger, and you're very meticulously writing down everything that you have ever done wrong and everything that you think that you've ever done wrong. And I wasn't just like at the beginning of the book, I was pretty well into the book. And that God wanted me to know that I had that correct theology, but that the way I was measuring myself and seeing myself was not the way that God was seeing me. And that he knew that I had this great, deep desire to have a close relationship with him. And he desired that too, and that he loved me. And in that moment, I had freedom from the bondage of feeling like I had to do everything right, because even Jesus wasn't holding me to that standard. And so after this, I was like, man, I'm on a roll. I need to continue with this. And so I decided to take God at his word, and he promises that if we seek, we will find, and if we knock, the door will be open to us. So I wanted to look at spiritual mentors, and there's so many great spiritual mentors within our church that I had admired for so long and looked up to. And so I kind of wanted to look at their lives and emulate what they were doing. And one of the common themes that I was seeing was that people were waking up early in the morning to dwell with the Lord before their day began, and they were making it an intentional effort to be with him. And I'd always felt like, oh, that's just not possible for me. I have small kids. They already wake up so early. Like, I feel like I need more rest. Like, how am I ever going to be able to do this? But with God, all things are possible. And I just decided, well, I'm tired anyway, so I might as well try. And so I had my dad being one of them, but I also had other accountability partners to like make sure that I was waking up at 5:30 every morning. So they would call me, and through this discipline of doing this, I grew to understand the sweetness and goodness that can come from dwelling daily in God's presence every morning. And I don't do it perfectly, and it's not a straight line, but I can testify that it does bring revival. And what was even sweeter than that was that I shared this testimony with friends, and then I had friends come alongside me and wake up early in the morning with me as well. And it was just such a joy to be able to grow together as a body and as close friends in that way. And none of this change would have happened without God's church working the way it's supposed to. The discipleship that Mercy Hill offers through things like spirit-led, community groups, moms groups, and mentorship was the catalyst for the discipline and motivation to take root in my heart. So my experience is a testament to all that God desires for us to grow together as a body. And I would just encourage you, if you aren't attending church regularly or aren't involving yourself in community outside of Sundays, to just explore the discipleship that Mercy Hill does have to offer, because there's so many options, whether that's Celebrate Recovery or Uprise Ministries or the Wednesday nights. There's just so many options, and I know that there are ways to connect with one another in deeper ways so we can understand God's character and will for our lives. We have the best church community, and I know God will continue to revive hearts and move in immeasurable ways in our midst.